We are beginning our optical illusion project today. So the first step is finding the center of your paper. So to do that, the easiest way is to take your picture or your paper, and you're going to lightly crease it. So I'm matching up these corners, and this part's so important that you get it exact, corner to corner. And lightly creasing means I'm just lightly tapping somewhere around the middle of that crease. I'm not worried about the ends, but right here in the middle, I'm lightly pushing it down, not bending it so it gets a really heavy crease. So there is the center of our paper going up and down. We're going to do the same thing going side to side. So lining those corners up as best as I can, and a light little push, and you can actually see where I crease this way. The center is going to be where those two meet. So with my pencil, I am going to put a dot right in the middle of my paper. With your rulers, we're going to create a diagonal line then that looks like a giant X. So I'm going from that dot to this corner. So I like to put my pencil on the spot and slide my ruler to that pencil, and then super lightly I am drawing this line. This measuring is so important that you have it on the corner and on that dot. I know you probably can't see my line on the screen, so I am going to push harder on this line, but I would press light if I were you. Okay, so I'm doing that on all four corners of my paper. Once you have those done, our next step is to outline them with Sharpie marker. Before you outline with Sharpie, I'm going to have you actually raise your hand or have Mrs. Cleary stop by and check that you have them in the corners as best as you can. Then, for this outlining, when Mrs. Cleary gives you the thumbs up or the go ahead, we're going to use our Sharpie marker, and we're going to trace right over our pencil lines with a nice black line. So after I outlined that giant X, I started doing some measuring with my pencil. So I started one of the triangles. If you can see that, it almost looks like a pyramid. And I started at the bottom of my paper and worked my way towards that dot. So what I was doing is I was lining up my ruler with the bottom edge of my paper, and then I was tracing the top side, and then I slid my ruler up, lined it up with that line I just made, and I traced the top of my ruler. So I did that all the way up, and I stayed inside that triangle. I'm going to do the same thing at the top. So I'm starting at the edge of the paper, lining that ruler up, and then I am going to trace the bottom of the ruler, staying in that triangle shape, and I'm going to slide my ruler down. Oops. And I'm going to trace the other side. So I keep doing that, and this is the easiest way for us to measure 1 inch. The rulers we're using today are 1 inch wide. So instead of having to make little marks and use the numbers on our ruler, we're just doing some time-saving techniques, and we are using the ruler width for our measure. Okay, so I have the top and bottom done. That's my first step. Then I am going to turn my paper the long way. And this, I'm actually going to work from the bottom, or from that point out. Here's what I'm going to do. I am looking for where these lines touch the X, and I'm going to line my ruler up and connect them. I'm going to slide my ruler up, and I'm looking for where those dots meet the X, and I'm connecting them. Looking for where the dots or the line meets the X, and I'm connecting those. I'm continuing all the way out, and you can start to see that optical illusion where it's looking like the walls and the floor and the ceiling. Oh, I didn't go all the way. There will become a point on these sides where your ruler doesn't reach. When you get that far, Mrs. Cleary has cut some long pieces of tag board for us to use to measure. Those pieces of tag board will be skinnier than this, but this will help you, not the best tool to use, but this is what we have. This will help you connect those long pieces with one long line. Okay, and then it should just be the two at the edge of the paper that you have to do that with. So I'm going to continue on the other side until I'm finished. All right, fourth graders, so we are about half done with the measuring on this project. We have all of these boxes getting smaller and smaller and smaller as they get to the point. That point is called our vanishing point. Things seem to vanish or get really small as they get far away from us. Now we're ready to do a little measuring around the perimeter of our paper. So that's a math word. The perimeter is the outside. And you can maybe see on the video on the side here, I have started to make some little marks on my paper. I am making a mark every 2 inches. So I'm trying to slide this paper so it's in the screen of the camera. I'm going to line my ruler up with the edge of my paper, and every 2 inches I'm making just a little mark on the edge of my paper. Super little mark. I'm doing that on all 4 sides. So on this long side, you will have to slide your ruler down 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I will have to slide my ruler down to get those last ones. So I'm connecting it to that last mark I just made, and I'm making a 2 and a 4. Now, you're going to play connect the dots. So my ruler is always going to stay one end on this point. The other end is going to pivot to that little mark we made. So I'm lining those up as best as I can, and I'm drawing a line. Notice how my ruler is staying right here, and I'm just rotating or pivoting that other end, lining up as best as I can, and I am staying in this triangle right now, just doing one side at a time. So I have worked my way all the way around the paper, creating those diagonal lines by measuring on the outside first, and then following that measurement to the vanishing point in the middle. So I did that in pencil, and now I am starting to outline with the black permanent marker, and I am still using my ruler to make these straight lines. So you will need to outline all of the diagonal lines. Then you're going to outline all of the box lines or the straight lines. So I am just going to do one part first. This is where it gets a little tricky. So I'm already making a couple mistakes where I've gone outside the line here because this line should have stopped and then it goes straight up and down. So if you have little mistakes or oopses like I did, there will be a couple of different ways we can fix them. We can either put some white out, so that's kind of a white paint that'll cover it up, or you might end up just actually coloring those spaces too and you won't even see them. So I am going to continue to outline all of these lines, and if you're like me, you might not outline them perfect. So when I'm all done with the black marker, I'm going to use one of those big erasers, and I'm just going to erase the pencil lines that I can still see. So I have finished outlining, and then I did some erasing for any of the pencil lines that I may have missed. Now I'm going to add that black box in the middle. So these black boxes are going to kind of cover up maybe any mistakes you made as you were going to the middle, and it's actually going to probably cover up some of my mistakes here. It should fit about perfect in one of those boxes. It should be about the same size. So I'm going to glue just the right amount of glue on the back. I don't want this to ooze out. And I'm going to line that up as best as I can. Press it down. So that's going to make your work look a little neater if it got messy in the middle. And that is where we will put our pictures in at the end. So now I'm looking right now and I am going to make a little color by number sheet, which means I want to color this like a checkerboard, every other box. So I'm going to start here where I made this oops, and I'm going to put a little mark because I'm going to color that in and cover up that oops. So every other, and I'm going to go around the box. So coloring there, I'm making an X, not there. Here. As I round the corner, I'm still making the same pattern. So I colored this part, I'm not going to go there. Here. Awesome. That should work out perfect, that we can keep that pattern. So now I'm going to go to the next bigger box. So if I colored on this square, I'm going to leave this one blank. So the X's are going to be the places that I'm going to color. This is just so that we don't make mistakes in the coloring and you know exactly where you need to go for the marker part. So as I go out, I'm going a little faster. My third row is going to be the same as the first one. So I'm going to continue this little cheat sheet color by number process, and when I come back I will have started the coloring part. As I begin to color, I want to think about my best coloring, filling in these spaces, and that will also cover up those X marks you made. I always like to outline that shape first, making that nice and neat, and then I can fill in the space quickly. So we are starting with one color. All of the X's you made are going to be that one color. If you're somebody who works a little bit faster and you want your checkerboard to be two colors, you could color those empty boxes, the white ones, with a separate color when you're all done. So a finished work is either going to be a color with white or two colors. So this one I did not color all those other boxes, I just left them white. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take that picture of ourselves and we're going to cut it out as best as we can to fit into the box in the middle. And that is our optical illusion.